Welcome back, everyone. So, some pretty serious incidents mentioned in this article. As maybe you are familiar with, children younger than 14 years old are not held criminally responsible in Korea, no matter what the crime is. But people have been feeling more recently that more and more kids under the age of 14 have been committing increasingly serious crimes, and they've been catching public attention. And so people are asking the question, is this law good? You know, should we continue to say that they are not criminally responsible when they commit these brazen acts of crime? There were a few examples in there. One kid was a repeat offender, continuously robbing the self-service cash checkouts at his local supermarket and getting away with it every time because of his immunity. So you can imagine how the police's patience and the public's patience is beginning to wear thin. The current suggestion is that the age should be lowered to 13, but is that the right answer? The question is still around, will this really get at the root causes of the rise in youth crime?
I mean, it's quite bleak to think about these children committing crimes and then also, lowering it to actually punish people. But at the same time, it's very understandable why people's patience is wearing thin and why people do want something to change. Who knows if lowering the age is going to actually affect anything? I think this probably is just because it's coming from the country that does it, the USA, but giving judges a bit more leeway in how they are administering punishment to adults and children, trusting that they were trained correctly in the Korean system would be a good step in the right direction, just me personally. But what is the right decision? Lowering from 14 to 13 doesn't seem like it's going to affect anything, to be honest. Just 12-year-olds will start doing it now.
Yes. And again, I want to know who's involved when they investigate these crimes. Are they finding adults directing these kids, managing this as their intention? Or is it really the kids suddenly coming up with these ideas for crimes on their own? I have my doubts. So I want to see some more research into this effect.
One thing I believe was at the end of the article is talking about how maybe adults are letting their kids grow up too quickly, and so it might be one of those things where we need to be looking at how children are educated and how children are being brought up as they are, and is there some sort of fault on the adults' part? Maybe they're not ordering their children to go steal, but they're like saying, hey, we can't eat, and you're 13. Anyways, let me just go turn a blind eye now.
Have you heard any news reports about underage children committing crimes? The article claims that this is happening more and more, but I don't think I've read about it that much. Have you?
I read a couple things when this sort of situation came out. There was a child. This is a crime, and I can't condone it, but it was a little funny. The child stood on police cars and jumped up and down, causing a damage to happen to the cars. But still, I don't know if it was the same child or if there might have been a crime happening before or after this event. But that was a bit comical on the comical side of things. There was a picture too, which was quite nice to have. Again, no condoning any sort of crime happening before, after, or during that event. Just it was on the less serious side of crimes that I saw children committing, because I have seen it, maybe not in Korea so much, but it's around the world. Child crime is big, and I've seen stories from Korea and Japan where children violence has been to the point of the children murdering, chopping up the body, putting it in bags, trying to hide it, and all done on their own. Like, this was not an adult directing it. They just hated that person and they planned it together and did it together. And it's like, Should someone, even though they are below the age of 14, someone who plans out a murder of a minor or of anyone and then tries to hide the evidence, should they be exonerated from any punishment?
They're smart enough to plan it and buy the preparation materials, and they're smart enough to recognize what they're doing.
Do you think that these children understand the seriousness of what they're doing? Or is it just kind of a game to them at first?
I really think it's case by case, because I love these true crime shows. You know, I watch a couple of YouTube channels all the time. Do you watch That Chapter? Mike, he's my hero. It depends. Sometimes you see these kids and they do look like, you know, you hear them talking in the interviews and they clearly know what they were doing. But other cases, like there was this one couple of girls and they murdered their friend and they were about 12 years old and they seemed crazy. Like they were like, oh, the what was he called? There's some internet character, the Spaghetti Man or
the
Slender Man.
Oh, Slender Man.
The Slender Man told us to do it. And you watch this whole interview and they're not faking it. They're not messing around and trying to blame some TV character. They believe it. Yeah. So, in some cases, they do know what they're doing. And in some cases, you can tell they don't know what they're doing.
And I would even push to argue that many adults may not understand the seriousness of the crime as well. I don't think understanding the seriousness of a crime should be affecting punishment to the point of not punishing at all. I think it's something to take into account, the mental health and condition of a person. However, it should not block a certain demographic from being punished for something. Now, this goes into the question of should the justice system be there for punishment or rehabilitation? But that is a whole different issue and question.
But the cool thing is, though, I think about kids, I reckon you've got a better chance of rehabilitating a criminal child or even a mentally ill child than an older adult. You know, I think the less they've lived, the more shapeable, guidable, changeable they might be. So
you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can teach a young one.
Maybe we can reach them better.
I hope
than
so.
We can. Cut down to the vocabulary and learn some new words together. Hope you enjoyed that. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Decry.
Decry.
Brazen.
Brazen.
Efficacy.
Efficacy.
Squabble.
Squabble.
Bleak.
Bleak.